Who's winning Trump's war with the press? He guy who said, "Never quarrel with a man who buys his ink by the barrel," didn't anticipate Donald Trump. Since becoming president, Trump has argued the news media to a stalemate thanks to the power of his alliance with the Fox News network and his 44 million follower Twitter account, which functions as one of the world's largest printing presses, and the ink is free. What makes Trump's success at media jamming so remarkable is that it coincides with a national press that has bird-dogged his every appointment, his every policy decision, his every political flip-flop, and of course, every ripple in the Russian investigation. The stronger the press gets, the greater Trump's powers of deflection become. A spiral destined to take both to heaven or at the very least to hell. Trump isn't the first American president to square off against the press, obviously. President number 2, John Adams, sought to silence his press critics with the Alien and Sedition Acts. President number 18, Ulysses S. Grant, bawled in his second inaugural that he had been the subject of abuse and slander scarcely ever equaled in political history. President number 37, Richard Nixon, told his consigliere Henry Kissinger that the press was the enemy, and his White House put some of the day's best journalists, Mary McGrory, Jack Anderson, Stanley Carno, Tom Wicker, et al. On an enemies list. By defining the press as his prime adversary, not a foreign power or terrorism or an energy crisis, as previous presidents have, Trump has changed the way we view the press and the way the press views itself. For Trump, the struggle is Manichaean, with him representing good and the press representing bad. In a recent tweet, he wrote, "Wow, more than 90% of fake news media coverage of me is negative, with numerous forced retractions of untrue stories. Hence my use of social media, the only way to get the truth out. Much of mainstream media, sick, has become a joke." At an August rally, he said journalists are sick people, liars who are fomenting division. In statement after statement, he and advisors like Steve Bannon have cast the national press, not the Democrats, as the opposition party. This trick of classification has paid steady dividends. It allows him to nullify every critical story as politically motivated and corrupt. The press has accepted the role of the opposition party, if not the designation. In press conferences and news stories, the national media give Trump the brand of guff we once heard coming from the firebrand wing of the Democratic Party. This is not to say reporters are in the tank for the Democrats, only that Trump's confrontational style drives them to dig in and return fire. Trump loves to directly challenge reporters, to appear like the cruel nanny who spanks children for talking back and thereby goads them into more backtalk. Trump has arranged the dynamic in such a way that he appears both victim and victor in every clash. Trump's rows with journalists have made him America's highest-profile press critic, a kind of malignant, self-interested ombudsman. Painting from his limited palette, he uses television addresses, interviews and tweets to depict stories he dislikes as fakes or lies. The effect has been maddening for journalists, who have exhausted themselves by writing counter-responses that say, "No, we're on the level." The effect of which is to reinforce the impression among the president's most loyal subjects that they are indeed the opposition party. Being the most mistake-prone president in history hasn't prevented Trump from capitalizing on the press corps' recent terrors. First he ripped ABC News' Brian Ross for a botched piece that reported Russian collusion during the campaign, and then he scalped CNN, his favorite whipping boy, for reporter Manu Rayu's monumental goof about the alleged special access that Donald Trump Jr. had been given to a WikiLeaks dump, a dump that was already in the public domain. No press slide has been too minor for Trump to howl about. When a tweet by the Washington Post's Dave Weigel incorrectly captioned a photo from one of Trump's rallies, only to fess up to the error shortly afterward, Trump went all Old Testament on journalists. "They are out of control," Trump tweeted of the press. "Major lies written, then forced to be withdrawn after they are exposed. A stain on America." Trump wants Weigel and Ross fired for their mistakes, and his press secretary has called for the sacking of ESPN anchor Jemele Hill for calling him a bigot.